Have you ever struggled to get your kid to eat anything other than their favorite foods? Maybe you have a child that eats only one particular food, or maybe a handful of foods that's all they're going to eat, and you find yourself with each meal time asking them or begging them to have just take one more bite or two more bites or just taste it. If you have been experiencing that, you're not alone. I too have been there where I literally begged my kid to just taste it. And my kid, being who she is, over time started paying attention to certain foods that I don't like and insisting that I just taste it. And at that point, I felt the pressure too. So sometimes pushing our kids to take one more bite or just taste it, it puts so much pressure on them that could lead to anxiety and then backfire where they have that negative experience with food. But today I want to talk about the fact that sometimes it may not be just about the food. There may be something else that could cause your kid to not want to either taste or try that particular foods. Several reasons include that pressure is what I just talked about in the example I gave, where if you have that mealtime pressure around meals where they've already experienced mealtime as a time where there's the fight, I don't have a choice about it, I'm forced to eat something that I'm not familiar with and stuff, it leads to a point where they're coming to mealtime with already anxiety. And when they're anxious about it, just like if you're anxious about something, you have that fullness where you're not hungry enough to even try the foods. So it could be anxiety from all the pressure of try this or try that without necessarily giving them the choice. So in order to reduce that anxiety around mealtime, then there are two things you can do. Have scheduled meal times with something with a choice or two choices for them to choose. That way you are giving them a choice, but within certain boundaries. We're not forcing them to eat it. We're giving them a choice so they have that ability to choose. And if they don't want to eat it, that's absolutely fine. Just know that that's the last meal. That's it for this particular meal. We'll have another choice or another option for something else to eat in about 2 or 3 hours. That's when the next meal may be. So the first thing that may be the reason why your kid is not eating may be one because of that pressure. So we can mitigate that by offering choices and having scheduled meal times. The second thing that it could be was that it is that the kid may just not be familiar with the food or may have a difficult time actually eating the food. Sometimes we have this misconception that eating is just, we eat without thinking about it, where it's because we've done it for so long that we're used to it. We have different chewing motions and stuff. But with kids, it takes a while for them to learn how to eat. Just like first they learned how to lift their head up and sit up and then crawl and walk. They start out the same process where you start out just sucking only. It's just suck, swallow, suck, swallow. Now, once it comes to food itself, it's not just the suck, swallow. Now you have to open your mouth up and down to chew sideways movements of your jaw, which takes time and practice. So that's why I've seen quite a few kids where they don't want to eat meats, especially if it's overcooked meat or if it's stuffed or it's just something tough. They don't want to eat it. I've heard so many parents who say, "Oh, my kid doesn't want to eat meat. I have a hard time giving them protein because they just will not eat the meats." It could just be it takes time for them to learn how to chew. Just like it took time for them to learn how to walk. But the difference between this and the walking is that we celebrated the progress. But now, on the flip side, when it comes to learning how to chew these foods, we're putting the pressure on and it's backfiring. So, why don't we start celebrating the process as we're advancing the foods from breast milk or formula to soft, mushy to now solids, where if they're not able to eat that hard, whether it's hard meat or more solid chickens and stuff, start out by giving them ground beef, ground turkey, shredded chicken, very tender cuts, slow cooking the meats, and playing with it. Alternatives where instead of now going from my child does not want to eat meats, we start digging in like, Why can't you eat the meat? Is it too hard for you? Are we having trouble chewing? Do we have to back off a little bit, start out with the ground or shredded options and work our way down? Do we have to slow cook the meat so it's nice and juicy and tender where it's easy for you to chew and process the foods? So it could just be they're not quite ready yet. And re-exposure and changing the texture and different ways of offering it will help really overcome this part of it. And then the other reason why your kid may not want to maybe picky may be the past experience, right? They may have experienced pain with that kind of food before. I talked to a parent before who felt so bad because the kid did not want to drink milk. For a long time, she offered milk. The kid said no. And eventually, she realized that the kid had a milk allergy after the kid broke out in a rash. A lot of times, kids will say no to foods when they've had a bad experience with it before. They could have related that every time I eat this food, something tingling on my tongue or just itching, or it could be every time I have this food, my tummy hurts. So they don't know how to express so to say how they feel. So they may be saying no to a food because they're just not tolerating it, right? And I see this a lot with dairy foods. Milk is one of them, sometimes cheese or nuts or other things that we may offer. And they say no, but we keep offering the foods because they're not breaking out in a full-blown rash, or we're not seeing any physical evidence of a food intolerance or something. So before forcing them, or if you offer milk per se, especially when we're transitioning to whole milk and the kids are not really wanting to drink it, you may try alternatives to that. You may try, like, there are pea protein milk, there's different nut milks, there's soy, different brands, to see if the child would take to that. Or if all of those brands fail, there are other options where you can get the calcium, vitamin D, which is why we do the milk. They can get plain yogurt. Most kids who have the allergies will get something from the yogurt, or will eat yogurt and tolerate it well, or other options of foods that are high in calcium and vitamin D. So in essence, in this video, we really talked about the other reasons besides just picky eating, or besides just the food that your kid may be refusing to eat. Maybe the pressure, maybe a food intolerance, maybe they're just not ready. So as you go through trying to feed or nourish your young ones, pay attention to how they're responding to the cues, and pay attention to the cues we're giving to you. That way you're able to offer foods in a safe way and nourish their bodies with care. As always, thank you for watching. I'm Dr. Loam. Again, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Dr. Loam.